Shalom, this is Mary Omni from the World Government House of King David, Holy Covenant Constitutional Enforcer. Now, does God hate black people? Oh boy, by black atheists. Let me start off, like I said before in a couple of my videos. Let's start with this obvious fact. First of all, black atheists, let's start with the fact that you're missing a couple dimensions, okay, honey? So you fell from the fifth dimension and higher dimensions to a third dimension, matter of density, okay? Let's start with that. Second, it's this series of books called Books for Dummies. And the reason it's called Books for Dummies is because those humble enough to admit that they are dummy to something have enough brain power to open their mind to receive further knowledge or learning. Well, I don't find this in a lot of people like the black atheists. They want to kind of pretend that they know everything. That's why I always want to start with the fact, dear black atheists, let's start with the fact you're missing quite a few dimensions, okay? And you're stuck in third dimension, density of matter. Okay, so that means there is an invisible world, several thousand invisible worlds you cannot see, feel, touch, because the veil is upon your head. Okay? Now, but I don't knock the question, okay? There's nothing wrong with asking a question, but you already declared you're a black atheist. So are you really looking for an answer? Are you really looking for an argument to pump your position up more, or to pump this third density ego that's missing quite a few dimensions up more? Now, let's start with the fact that I have a video called The Obvious Stupidity of Black Men Who Deny Christ. I told the black atheist about that, and he wanted me to identify Christ before he checked out the video, which means he really wants to stay in a non-receivership of any outside influence of any information until you get into an argument with him. In other words, he wants you to get into an argument with him before he just have an open mind and listen to another perception or point of view. He wants to argue his position first before he hears any other information that might hinder his argument, okay? Now, I'm starting from the position you're missing dimensions, okay? So you're not really in a position of authority as an atheist or anything else with all these missing dimensions to say what God hates or to even question God or the holy throne. You not in a position as a fallen from a higher dimensions and lower dimensions to question God and try to analyze God. You're missing far too many dimensions. And that's what I'm going to start with. You are missing far too many dimensions. You are missing the world of higher illumination and thinking. You are missing the fact that you really don't have sense enough to start from the position that you're missing dimensions. And then in the obvious stupidity of black men who deny Christ, you don't have enough sense to put the fact that you was a God that fell in the third density and then suffered a crucifixion in America for 339 years and more. So I'm saying, if you are so knowledgeable and you know you was a fallen God and you suffered a crucifixion in a country, not 1 century, but 2 centuries, but 3 centuries, 4 centuries, 5 centuries, you've been crucified. What is the main thing about Christ? He suffered a crucifixion. He suffered a crucifixion. He came to earth and he suffered a crucifixion as the Son of the Most High. Okay? So if we just take this little common sense, and I say this in the obvious stupidity of black men who deny Christ. If we just take this common sense, because I know your ego is big enough to know that you was a God before and that you somehow fell, but do you have enough common sense to put your crucifixion as a fallen God as 2 and 2 equaling 4? Or are you so hummed up in your position that even if I present this common sense that a kindergartner can understand, you won't be able to absorb it or comprehend it because you're not intelligent enough to start from a place of being a dummy that can open a book for dummies that fell from the 5th or above to the 3rd dimension. Okay? See, and the argument should really stop right there. I mean, in truth, if you want to know the truth about it, the argument should stop right there. Because if you fell that far, then you're missing a lot. Because if you wasn't missing a lot, you wouldn't have fell that far. And then you would know God is real because you would have been the God yourself that is real. Okay? You would have been the God yourself that is real. You would have been the God yourself that is real in front of your face. So, does God hate black people? Black atheists? Do you hate yourself? Do you hate the fact that you was a God that fell from higher dimensions to a low 3rd matter in density? Because Egypt means matter. And Deuteronomy 28:68 said we go into a second Egypt. That means we falling back again into a matter from a higher spiritual realm and dimension. So when you ask that question, black atheists, you better look in the mirror. You better look in the mirror because you are the fallen God that hates yourself, and that's the reason you fell. That's the exact reason you fell. What you're doing now is indicting yourself. You're indicting yourself as one who hates himself, as a fallen God who experienced crucifixion, and you saying you don't believe in yourself as a God because you're a black atheist, which means you can never, ever go back into the status of a God anytime in the near future because you don't believe in yourself and you are displaying and telling the world you hate yourself. Okay? So when we talk about God again, we say it, and you're saying you're a black atheist, you hate your God status, you hate that you had a God status, you hate that you fell from a God status, you hate the fact that you're in the 3rd dimension, so now you want to say the invisible world that you don't see of higher dimensions don't exist. Don't exist. But we know by the building of all the pyramids and all the wonders of the world that this couldn't have been done by a mortal man who did not have a higher dimension of power and intelligence to the level of Godship and omnipresence. Okay? So, I mean, really, black atheists, you sound kindergarten and silly to me. Now, if you want to get into a protracted argument, but your protracted arguments don't have common sense. Because if you know you're the fallen God, and you come from a people that was crucified in America 300 to 400 years, then you can't deny that you suffered the same as the body of Christ, or as Christ did. Okay? So your question is, now that you in this 3rd dimension state, you want to deny either the fact that you was a God that fallen, or you want to deny the fact that you wasn't smart and intelligent enough to hold on to your Godship. So if you wasn't smart and intelligent enough to hold on to your higher dimensions of Godship, then answer the question. Yeah, you hate your damn self. Yeah, you hated your damn self. Because God made you sovereign. God made you sovereign and gave you free will, because that's what a God has. Free will. And yeah, you and the types like you hated your damn self. And that's why you're in the third dimension displaying the same hate, because atheism is a form of hate. See, because either you're going to serve the living God and be part of the body of the living God, or you're going to serve the dead. So you answer your own question, because you said you was the one who hated black people. You said you was the one that caused the fall of black people and all the suffering. You saying you're the one that hated black people. And that's why you're in the third dimension. And that's why you're sitting up here sprouting out the same thing with this thick veil over your face that you can't put fallen gods and crucifixion together to become the Son of God. Sons of God that went into the daughters of man. You better declare, when you talking about, do God hate black people? You better declare either that you don't know, that you was a God that fell, or you better declare you don't know nothing about slavery and crucifixion in America. If you don't declare them things, then you're displaying a lack of common sense and basic knowledge about black people that is in the Americas that went through a second captivity, as Deuteronomy 28:68 describes as Israel, Isis, Ra, and El. Okay? I'm through. I'm through. Any books for dummies you need to get. Again, I'm always amazed at the fact that these black fallen men jump to the throne and start questioning God and what is God's intentions, and they see their brothers right in front of them, and they never questioned their hate of black women. They never questioned their hate and abandonment of their black children. They never questioned their hate of their own ribs God given them. They never questioned them. But somehow in their third dimension density, they don't have enough manhood to question each other and hold each other accountable for the hate and the abandonment they know exists, because some of their own fathers abandoned them, and they won't ask their fathers, did you hate me? But they'll jump way, thinking they can jump way to the kingdom throne from a third density ego perspective, but they can't use that same ego to question each other and to question their own fathers. Did their father, that earth father assigned to them, that made them, that made a woman pregnant to make them, they won't ask them, did you hate me, Dad? Why did you not call me? Why didn't you participate in my raising? And see, this is how you know that they're off balance. This is how you know that they don't have true heart. They think they can grab on a throne, but they don't have true heart to question what's right in front of them on their level, which means there's a pusillanimousness going on. And they think they can escape this pusillanimous by then going and questioning the throne of God, which is why they're in the third dimension right now, and a lot of them will never, ever be ready for the kingdom.
This is Mary Omni from the House of King David. Shalom.